This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Brazil. We go back to Brazil once again. So happy to be at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Paz for the round 5 of the Geodesic Racing Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia. It is going to be a 45-minute wonder fest at this track, and I desperately need David Haynes to come in because I'm quickly losing track of what I'm saying. Reese Gardner here. David, welcome. It's going to be an amazing night of racing once again in this series.
Yeah, exactly. This is a track that Australian iRacing seems to like. I think last time you and I were commentating racing here, it was very well received, and we had some fantastic battling, some fantastic side-by-side action, and that was in the Oceanic Sim Racing Formula 3 Championship, and the race was won by less than a tenth of a second. So if we get half of that action tonight, it will be well worth it. And our grid tonight is very, very strong, very deep grid too. We're going to have at least 40 of these fantastic GTE machines taking the race start, and hopefully something in that ballpark making it to the end as well. As you've already said, a 45-minute race, a fuel restriction in play means that everyone's going to have to take a pit stop for fuel at some point, but there's no mandatory pit window.
Yeah, that's it. The main thing with these events is there is no mandatory pit window, but you're one way or another, you're going to have to come into the pits for something. These cars have a 50% fuel tank restriction, and obviously the tank is not going to last the distance if it's a 45-minute race. Unless there's a bunch of cautions, then you might be able to fuel save enough to make it to the end on basically not stopping at all. But for one reason or another, you're probably going to have to come in. It's a very cool day out there. Nice, cool track temperatures, so there's going to be a lot of grip available to the drivers out there. Cars are going to be nice and pointy. They're going to have to watch out for a bit of oversteer in the middle of these corners, though.
Yep, exactly. Looking at that, that's a very nice temperature, if I'm honest with you. 25.6 degrees Celsius. That's just the right amount of grip. These cars are going to be fast and hopefully racing side by side, making some bold but not too bold overtaking moves are all going to be possible. And on the right hand side column there, just having a look at some of the warm-up times, I do believe. And that's one of the stories we're looking at here. Josh Rogers making an appearance. He's very, very strong in qualifying, and even here in the warm-up, he's showing how quick he can be, nearly half a second clear of everyone else. Will he be also that dominant in the race? Well, it's very, very possible. He's a truly rapid driver who doesn't always have the time to participate in some of these Australian leagues. He's a busy international man these days, but it's good to have him, as well as lots of other regulars here in the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing Series Australasia. And that just about brings the end to the warm-up. So, Reese, I think it's nearly time for us to go down our starting grid.
Yep, certainly. And what a close starting grid it was. Qualifying saw the top guys separated by about a tenth of a second across 7 or 8 cars. So it's going to be very, very close. The grid for this round, we got Josh Rogers on pole, John Peasnick joining him on row 1, Jake Burton and Bo Albert together on row 2, Alexander Bird and Anthony Winkleman, teammates at Trek Sim Sports, followed up by Ross Rizzo, their teammate as well, 5, 6, and 7 for Trek. Reese Kasul coming back to the grid here in 8th place, Scott Sidlowski in 9th place, Trent Thomas in 10th. That's Trek Sim Sports taking up almost half of the top 10 there.
Yeah, Exactly. Interesting to have them up there. 11th place is Blake Neck. 12th, Luis Polo Gallon. 13th is Mark Rayner. 14th is Dominic Ferraris. 15th, Ethan Warren. 16th position is Ryan Jarek. 17th is Martin Silvassi. A little bit back from the rest of his Trick Sim Sport teammates, but we know they're guys who can make up some positions through the race, be it strategy or clean racing. 18th is Hayden Dodman. 19th is Zach Hanlon for Altus Esports. And 20th, our mate Corey Ott.
In 21st, we've got Adam Briggs, DPR Racing joining full momentum on row 11 there with Justin Strickland as the pace car pulls away. Jake Maloney and TJ Brown right behind them on row 12. In 25th, we've got Jace Richards and Brock Haddai, who is now a privateer after All-Star Motorsports unfortunately closed its doors. Daniel Cheney and Dylan Shepherd there with Aaron Farmer and Cameron Stubber running out the top 30.
Yeah, our I mentioned big grid, deep grid continues. 31st is Darren Huxham. 32nd is Benjamin Johnson. 33rd is Reese Keane. 34th, Stephen Bartholomew. 35th is Richard Hunter. 36th is Wayne Hewitt. 37th, Mitchell McLeod. 38th, Tom Freer. 39th, Gary Cousins. And 40th, but I'm not seeing him out there having taken the grid, was Nino Natale.
In 41st position, we're going to have Rob Harris with Matt Huppets alongside him. Paul Nichols and Alex Court there. Brant Tucker making an appearance, the former head of All-Star Motorsports there. Paul Wood in 46, Pat Gallo and Gerard Daly taking up row 24, and our grid rounded out 51 cars. David Farrelly, Chris Polly and Ty Ingleton. They are about to come across the line to start this one. Josh Rogers behind the pace car at the front of this field. He is going to be the one controlling the get-go once the pace car pulls into the pits. This is going to be absolutely brilliant. Interlagos, a course with a lot of overtaking opportunities. Pace car in, green flag out. Josh Rogers has not managed to hook up that start. They're going 3 wide at the start already. Jake Burton trying to go for it on the inside. John Piesnick on the outside. Rogers getting sandwiched there into turn 1. Burton leads the way. There's contact right behind them. Bo Albert and that's Ross Rizzo making contact with Bo Albert. We got a car off.
Yeah, my goodness, not a good jump at all for Josh Rogers. Has really banked all of the field up.
Gallon.
No good jump. And yet, LP Racing's Luis Polo Gallon having some problems off the start.
He was the one that was off.
He had a difficult race last week as well, so not doing well off the start. This battle right at the top of the field continues as well.
Yeah, certainly does. We're taking a look at Bo Albert at the moment as he chases down Alexander Bird, who's going side by side with Rogers, pressuring Burton there through the hairpin section of the track. Burton making an appearance as a privateer after leaving Trans-Tasman Racing, and Josh Rogers for Coanda Sim Sport now. These guys formerly of TTR and TTL, two of the most successful teams in the Australian-New Zealand sim racing community. But these guys incredibly close, and John Piesnick is starting to come back at them now. Oh, have a look at that side by side. That's Hanlon versus, I believe, Silvassi? No, Trent Thomas. My apologies.
There's so many trick cars out there, it's difficult to immediately spot which one is which. We have gone and worked it out now. We're watching Jake Burton lead into turn 1. Can Josh Rogers do anything about it this time? No, and he's providing a little bit of cork in the bottle. Rogers follows closely. Piesnick right behind, but once again, a bit of drama coming into the first corner, Reese.
Yes, indeed. Ethan Warren and Reese Gasol fighting here. It's difficult. It's still difficult seeing Ethan in an Altus Esports livery, but he is going to try and go for the inside here on Gasol. Hanlon's going to try and follow him. Reese Gasol getting double teamed by the Altus boys there. Seems like they've managed to get it done.
He'll cross back over to the racing line. Trent Thomas always thinks about getting through there as well. We've got a great mix of all of the different manufacturers there in that battle as well.
Yeah, we certainly have. We've mentioned it before in this series, the balance of performance on point in the GTE cars as Hanlon and Gasol going side by side. Hanlon forced off the track, maintaining control just, and he's going to have to go full defensive now. looks like something has happened to Josh Rogers as well. So not quite sure what's gone on there, but he's found himself back in the field a bit. Looks like he might have gotten a slow down penalty because I can see him lifting off the throttle and letting a few guys by. Yeah, he just took way too much grass on the inside of that right-hander. He's had to slow down. Staying with the replay because something has happened to, this is just another view of the incident between Reece Gasol and Zach Hanlon. Getting very feisty, and we're hearing that something else has happened to Gasol as well, so we're going to stay with the replay and see what happened here. Under brakes for Junsao. Yeah, there we go. Just lost it in the middle of the corner. Easy thing to do.
Yeah, clearly the grip at the rear of the car not satisfactory. He turns it into the corner, and then obviously has to correct the slide, has to straighten the steering wheel right out, and goes off through the grass, the Kimi Räikkönen line. There's no speed out there, unfortunately for him. My title screen still saying Josh Rogers down in 8th position, so he's lost a bunch of spots, including off the start. Gonna take a lot for him to get past all those trick boys in front of him. Fantastic qualifying, and I said, you know, can that translate into race pace? And right now for Josh Rogers, it unfortunately hasn't, but he's still got a lot to work with, and then pit cycle coming through as well. He'll definitely get some clean track at some point this race to flex that Ferrari.
Yeah, definitely. Keep an eye on Josh Rogers in the next few laps. We know what he's capable of. Burton still leads from John Peasneck. And we're hearing from race control, car 911, that's Brant Tucker. He's been given a stop-and-go penalty for avoidable contact in turn 13. So Tucker not having the best run here tonight. But up the front, still continuing to battle. Have a look at this pack. Rogers there, I just saw in the background, already already attempting to make a move on Kozlowski, and he's managed to do it. Alexander Bird still heading up this pack, this big battle for 3rd place.
Yeah, Bird doing a great job. Didn't see much of him at Sebring, if indeed he was even there, but now, yeah, 3rd, leading that train of the trick cars that Bo Albert and Josh Rogers now find themselves sort of sandwiched in. Trick Sim Sports gone from one of those small teams, 2 or 3 cars, to now they seem to have done a GT takeover.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. I mean, Trick Sim Sports, they've done a really good job of spotting drivers that will work well within their environment. Picking up, of course, Kozlowski. Oh, goodness me, yeah, he's getting a bit feisty there. We look back from Anthony Winkleman coming into Junsao. Of course, Anthony Winkleman, one of the top guys at Trick Sim Sports. You can see the run that Rogers has on him, though. Look at this static carry. You can see the sense of speed that these guys have got as they come out of the remaining turns of this circuit that's been around for basically 80 years now. Winkleman going defensive. Rogers, it's possible to go around the outside here at turn 1, but Rogers, I think, not quite committing to that.
Yeah, I think that's the sensible thing, but he gets a great run out of the turn 2 through Curva de Sol, and he's looking pretty quick in a straight line. That Ferrari, that prancing horse, getting up to a bit of a gallop now towards turn 4, Descida de Lago. Winkleman doesn't fight it too hard. Rogers is back through. I think Winkleman's realised the kind of pace that Rogers has, but the battles continue further back. Will this become 3 wide? Mitchell McLeod goes to the inside, grabs another couple of positions away.
Yes, indeed. Now he's sandwiched by Gasol and Richards. Gasol with a bit of damage to his rear wing, so he is further behind than he should be. Of course, partially as a result of, I think, him messing up Junsao, but maybe he's had contact with another car. Meanwhile, Mitch McLeod, he's actually lost quite a few spots. Oh, well, no, he's gained a few spots, I should probably say. Plus 17 positions for him, so he's making a very good run through the field, is Mitch.
Exactly. Not sure he put his best into qualifying, but he's putting his best into the race so far. Looking again, Rogers trying to pick off another trick.
That's a great view of the mirror.
Yeah, it is. The symmetrical ones on the Ferrari. And get a good view from on board. Josh Rogers, he picks off another trick.
Yes, indeed. Rogers just making his way along here. He knows that he's got the pace. He qualified on pole for this one. All he needs to do is says marks. Ethan Warren, unfortunately, though, that is an incident for him. Making it back onto the circuit. Let's see what happened to him here. So he's just coming across the start-finish line here. Maybe contact, maybe oversteer. We'll see. Easy to catch the grass here. He didn't do that. The car just over-rotated coming up to the mid-corner.
Yeah, well, his other teammates racing in different cars than that Ferrari. Bo Albert is in the Porsche and the Ford for... Rogers makes another move just as I'm talking about Bo Albert's Porsche. Yeah, so all of the Altus boys in different cars, maybe not sharing, obviously not sharing setups with each other. Bo Albert's not going to let Rogers have it easy, and he gives a little bump, gets a bit of traction out of the final corner, elbows out for these two World Championship boys.
Yes, indeed. Luis Paulo Gallon was given a penalty for stop and go. Avoidable contact in turn 10. He's just retired from the race, so that's one of our factors out. But this battle is where it's at the moment, going 3 wide down the front straight. My goodness, Rogers has been in this position before. Albert trying to hold the outside with some technical issues. Oh, Rogers comes out in front. What a fight.
Now there's 3 trick cars to one Altus there.
My goodness, well, there's no team orders at Trick, you can definitely tell that, my goodness. Winkelmann and Rizzo going side by side, almost making contact, and Martin Silvassi is around at turn 2. So, not sure what's going on there. We'll get a replay of that as soon as we can, but this battle is continuing to rage on. Silovsky now is pressuring Albert. Albert's just been absolutely caned this lap.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolute a street fight of sorts. He's being punched from the left, punched from the right, and he just hasn't got anyone around to help him in an absolute swarm of those other drivers. So Silvassi might be having a look again at what on earth his problem was. A little bit of a gap behind, a little bit of a gap ahead. Has he done it by himself, or has he been helped? We are going to find out. He's definitely facing the wrong way. The exit of turn 1, he does get a bit of a bump from behind.
He certainly did. That's a shame to see. I'm not too sure who that was. Adam Briggs there who did that, and he made an attempt to redress. So we're just getting another view of whoa, Josh Rogers' amazing move to the front of that pack there. But it is on for the lead. Jake Burton and John Piesnik, they have really closed up. All of that fighting for third place has given these guys a lot of space. You can see the third place pack behind them there in the top right a shot. But yeah, that right there, that is the physical gap between these guys. So Piesnik, the pressure is definitely on for him now. He's had a good first couple of races in this championship, but Motegi was not kind to him. He had technical issues there. He's wanting to make good on that. Meanwhile, we look at Reese Gasol fighting with Corey Ott and JC Richards there.
They're trying to catch up to Mitch McLeod, who is up 22 spots. It's +4 for Corey Ott, but Reese Gasol, we mentioned some of his problems earlier. He is down 9 positions, trying to make some of those back.
Yes, indeed. Man on a mission. Meanwhile, Rogers has just gotten through on Alexander Bird. CPR car parts instant replay right there of this move. So it was just coming through the very slow hairpin section, which the Ferrari seems to really like. Almost a bit of contact between himself and Bird, but Rogers making his way through. We go back live now. Burton was just a bit faster than Piesnik that time around. He's gained a bit of momentum, has the West Australian in the lead there. Josh Rogers, though, the fastest car on track last time by 1 minute 27.716. Meanwhile, the guys around him all doing 28s and 29s.
Yeah, I mean, you see in the graphic there that was the fastest lap of the race so far, and not the first lap in the 127s, but certainly the only driver out there right now putting in laps like that. At that rate, give it 5 laps, and he'll be at the heels of Burton and Peasnick.
Yeah, give him a few minutes. We'll see how that one goes. Seems like Peasnick is very strong in the second half of the circuit, or even the middle third, I suppose you could say. But Burton then pulls away from him. There's an instant replay that we've got here of something happening further back in the field. Aaron Farmer. So, not quite sure what's going on here, but Farmer outside the top 30 right now. He's not having the best of races, and that's just made it worse there. A bit of contact with Jake Maloney there coming into turn 4. Real shame for him. But the track narrows up there quite a bit, more than you think.
Indeed. I'm still looking at the times this lap around how much Josh Rogers managed to close the gap. It was 4/10 this lap, which is significant, but it will take him just a few more laps before he's able to catch up to Burton and Peasnick. And then behind that, for 5th, Winkleman, Rizzo, Albert, Solossi. That's a great battle. Some really feisty names in that pack for the last spot in the top 5.
Yes, indeed. Those guys fighting very hard. We do take another look, though, at Reece Gasol there on the broadcast. Himself and Corey Ott having a mighty old battle there in their Porsches to come through this brilliant double apex right that comes into the hairpin section of the track. A little bit of a lock up from Gasol, but not quite, I think, where he needs to be. We take a look, though, at Zach Hanlon and Trent Thomas. This is the fight for 11th place. Hanlon pushing the curbs to their absolute max. I think he might have lost a bit of momentum on the exit there, because Thomas seems to be gaining on him slightly.
And the Ford is one of those cars that maybe is less friendly to the curbs than some of the other ones, but can be good in other sections. He's still just going to be clear of Trent Thomas. But, you know, I could know absolutely nothing, because Zach Hanlon is loving those curbs through the first 3 corners, finding good speed there, but not shaking Trent Thomas.
Yeah, it's the very harsh curbs that I think the Ford needs to watch out for. Just harsh bumps in general. Those curbs are nice and smooth around that part of the track, so the Ford, I think, has a better time with them. But they are very close in this section. It still blows my mind how narrow the track is in that particular straight line section.
Wide goes Hanlon.
Yep. Oh,
Thomas is going to get a nose towards the inside. Definitely gets deep enough.
Oh, bit of contact.
Pushes it out wide too, just to take up all of the available space, carry as much momentum as he can. And that was absolutely on the limit of being a legal move, I would suggest. Any further and he'd be pushing his competitor off the track. I think to just get away with that one, and Trent Thomas moves up into 11th place at the expense of Zach Hanlon.
Yeah, I do think that move was definitely on. Thomas saw a gap developing and he went straight for it.
And that's what you do in Brazil, of course. If you see a gap, you go for it, because otherwise you're no longer a racing driver. And they know that, Trent Thomas knows that, and Hanlon decides that now is the time to come into the pits. I imagine he'll be able to fill that and get to the end from here. Might be just entering the pit windows. Gotten 2 thoughts confused there. I've got my 2 brain cells overlapping each other, because one of them was about to say no safety cars so far this race, and probably take a lot for one to happen if we didn't get one in the first lap with all of that carnage where everyone managed to keep going. So yeah, the halfway point in this race would then be with 22.5 minutes to go. So probably as good a time as any, and it's going to come out. Where's that
battle
between Freya and Silvassi potentially?
Yeah, so that's
Behind
about 26th
Silvassi.
position there. So he's managed to make that work very well. Former teammates at Evolution Racing Team were Silvassi and Hanlon. They still come together on the track. But we're looking here at TJ Brown. almost getting a move done on him by JC Richards. We've seen JC in quite a few battle packs this race so far, haven't we? Getting right into it.
Yeah, certainly another battle of the Porsches. It's all going to be about the drive off that final corner. A little bit wide was Richards, but if he missed the apex curb, might keep the car flat. He might have actually been able to get the throttle open earlier. All depends, but he's right in the slipstream. They follow that closest line through the pit entry, scrub off as little as possible, and have to be opportunistic under the brakes to do anything. Pit lane's lighting up though.
Yeah, we just saw Hayden Dodman and Ethan Warren jump into the pits there, so we should expect our guys further up the front to start that off pretty soon. Continue taking a look at the battle between Brown and Richards. This is actually quite entertaining to watch. Richards trying to do it up the inside, and he's managed to get it done. That's something that's not easy at that particular corner, because as you can see, your competitor then gets a really good run out of it. Richards leaving just under enough room on the outside. I think he's going to have that position done for the time being.
If it's done by this infield section, then it's difficult for the car behind to get a run at you. You're exactly right about Interlagos. As the name suggests, lake descent. The track does descend there, and doing that, it makes it very easy to pick up some understeer. And once you go wide of the exit curb, the track drops away even further. So well done by Richards, keeping it just within the confines of the track and picking up just enough momentum off the exit of the corner. What about the battle for fourth on that though?
Yeah, we're looking at Alexander Bird there in fifth as the car's coming out of the pits nearby them. Albert with a really good run here. Bird all the way over to the inside. Remember, both these guys have not pitted yet. They're still trying to sort themselves out. Bird holding it well on the inside. Albert's had to sacrifice some momentum to get the exit done. Not too much he can do through this section unless Bird runs wide, which, knowing Bird, is not something he does very often. It's maybe sorted at least until the next harsh braking zone, because you can see that Albert is desperate. And Reece Gasol and Mitchell McLeod continuing to fight there for 12th and 13th position. Gasol through on him. So back to this battle for 5th place. And I want to briefly draw your attention to the battle for the lead as well, because Peasnick has fallen off the wagon a little bit versus Burton. Got nice and close to him before, but has really dropped back in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, and Rogers in third is still pounding in those laps. I've seen maybe 3 or 4 in a row where he's gotten into those 1 minute 27s. Still just about the only car doing that. So he pulls another 4/10 out.
It's me, Bird and Albert. The amount of confidence that those guys have in each other's racing ability is awesome to see. They're getting very close through those first couple of turns. Have a look at Bo Albert. He is under immense pressure from Ross Rizzo now. He's going to have to go defensive on the inside. Rizzo much better on the brakes. Almost a little bit of a touch between them. Bo Albert holding on and flashing their lights right behind them is Scott Sidlowski. Have a look at Rizzo. He's really getting desperate to try and find a bit of space there behind Albert. This is fantastic.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a wiggle. Big rock up from Albert. How on earth he still got that to the apex? Goodness knows. He had a huge wiggle and then shook it off like it was nothing. And yeah, there's a weave from Rizzo as well. These guys are going hard for the top 5.
They certainly are. It's fantastic racing here at the moment. And can I just say, and I'm touching wood here, this is the clean... Oh, as I go to say that, a car goes off. Wow, fantastic. TJ Brown with some issues there. I was about to say this was the cleanest race I'd ever seen at Interlagos, because usually by now we've had a safety car or two.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Some of the circuit really leads to that. But, you know, we trust the commentator.
Yes, of course. But Alexander Bird at the halfway point of this race, still leading this pack for 5th. I get the feeling these guys are going to all want to pit at once.
Yeah, we've had a few pit calls, but really no one from, the top 10 or the top 15. Jake Maloney from 15th goes for it now. Yeah, Zach Hanlon, really the biggest name, the highest order we've seen go for the pits so far. So everyone else stretching the stint out maybe as long as they can go, trying to avoid getting buried deep back in some traffic and giving an overcut to their competitors.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You got to really think about that when you're working out strategy in races like this. Zach Hanlon, on the other hand, having a bit of trouble in the back there. But we focus on Mr. Rizzo. 3-time, 3-in-a-row champion of this series is Ross, and continuing to be his usual consistent self. Hanlon is in a bit of a no man's land at the moment. Remember, he was one of the first drivers to take his pit stops, so he is well out of sync compared with everyone else, and we're not quite sure where he's going to end up.
Yeah, and Rogers has just set, again, the fastest lap of the race, now half a second back from Peasnick. He's flying as we probably approach the pit stop phase. Now only 2 seconds off the lead is Rogers. It's still all to play for between Burton, Peasnick and Rogers for the win in this race.
Yeah, certainly is. Have a look at the rate at which Rogers is catching Peasnick. That is amazing to behold. Every single braking zone you can see he's just gaining a little bit more. He's pushing that Ferrari for all it's worth.
Rogers is one of the few drivers game to try and make an overtaking move through an area of the track like this. Everyone else is thinking turn 1 or turn 4. And Rogers is confident in himself and potentially the drivers around him to try and throw it deep on the brakes in some unconventional spots, maybe try and catch Peasnick off guard. So it makes it very, very interesting to watch because we don't know what might happen.
Yeah, and Rogers, I'm noticing, very aggressive with that curb usage. So, oh, have a look at the run he's got there. Suddenly got an absolute spritz of draft on the inside, and looks like Peasnick isn't putting up much of a fight to that, which I think, if I were in that position, I'd probably do the same, honestly, because Rogers is a man on a mission right now.
Yep, and I'm looking on that. He did a 1 minute 27.6. It was a 1 minute 28.1 for Burton. The gap, 1.5 seconds, changed by 5/10 on that lap. That means 3 laps and Rogers is at the lead. So after being shuffled back 9th or 10th in the early running, it really hasn't deterred him. He's got that raw underlying pace. It's exciting to watch.
Yeah, certainly is. Meanwhile, though, there's lap traffic for the 5th place battle. The likes of Paul Wood and Paul Nichols, they've just come out of the pits, so they've taken their scheduled pit stops and fallen into the clutches of these guys. They've managed to get by them without much incident, Paul Nichols at least. They still have Mr. Wood in front of them. And they are incredibly close, riding on board with Ross Rizzo. We can see the view of the 2 other Porsches, Bo Albert and Alexander Bird right there up in front of him. Looks like this is going to be a reasonably easy job if Wood just lets them go on the straight. Who is that spun around? That's Richards. That's a shame. He was making his way up very nicely. These guys, very hard racing going on at the moment. Slipstream battle. Bird and Albert. Bird goes through here on Wood, or attempts to anyway. Looks like Wood is not letting them go quite as easily as we thought he would. Going wide on exit. Oh, almost a bit of contact. Not quite enough room, I think, being left there. But again, you could probably say Paul could have afforded to let them go on the front straight, and he probably wouldn't have lost as much time.
Yeah, exactly. That was an odd one, just a little miscommunication by those drivers. No damage to either car, really. Alex Bird continues to lead the little group. I think he just thought that the other driver was going to stay off the circuit there, not quite rejoin.
Yeah, Yeah, that does make sense. We will see if anything comes of that. But Alex Bird is continuing to steadfastly lead this pack, and I have to say he's done a fantastic job to sit tight there. He's faced off against all manner of attacks from the guys behind him, and he has managed to stay in 5th despite all of that.
Yep, not short of talent right behind him using his slipstream, but he got a good run off Junsao that time. Keeps him clear just out of range of Bo Albert this time. And it's a relatively short lap. Loses a little bit of momentum through the first turn. It's a relatively short lap here. We've got plenty of cars since the traffic is starting to come thick and fast for our leaders.
It is. We got a replay here of that exit that you just saw on screen there, Corey Ott, and I believe PJ Brown, a little bit of a spin. Ott, unfortunately, receiving a penalty for actions last round at Sebring, so he's treading on a bit of thin ice with the stewards. It's going to be a good case for him just letting Brown go back by there. So, the battle for the lead. Jake Burton currently in front, but Josh Rogers pursuing. Rogers' last lap was a 27.8.11, 27.944 from Burton, so Burton's responded well to Rogers' charge, but Josh just has a little bit of that extra momentum, a little bit of extra pace that he can extract out of that Coanda Ferrari.
Yeah, if I'm honest with you, the only way I can see Burton winning this is on pit strategy. Speaking of that, he comes into the pit lane now. If he's been just a little bit careful with the fuel and he can take, you know, a second to 3 seconds less fuel, then maybe he can hold on for the remaining 15 minutes. But Josh Rogers stays out. He's going to keep putting down those quick lap times. This is going to have to be a miracle pit stop from Burton. Otherwise, he's just let Rogers through without a fight.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we'll be keeping an eye there on Burton as he exits the pit lane through this section of pit exit that you do have to drive as if you are racing. One of the awesome things about the Interlagos circuit.
Stage.
Yeah, it is. Benjamin Johnson, though, with some problems, spinning on the run up to the start-finish line. That's a bit of an awkward place to have an off. Let's replay so we can see what happened. Just exiting Junsao. And, oh, that's extremely odd. I have no idea what could have gone on there. Zach Hanlon was almost caught up in all of that. That was a very weird incident, almost like a hardware issue.
Yeah, can't see the vision myself, unfortunately, Reese.
All good, but that's obviously something that they will have to look at after the race, just to see what went on behind the wheel. But Josh Rogers now in the pits, Peasnick in the pits as well, making his way past David Farrelly on pit entry. I think that deserves a bit of a replay. On board with Peasnick coming into the pits. Quite the pass there, making his way past the lap car of David Farrelly, who's come in with them.
Just Sebastian Vettel did that at China one time, passing cars on the pit entry, and a couple of people protested, but it was entirely legal if you pass them before the start of the pit speed limit. John Peasnick doing just about that. I guess that's what champions do.
Yes, indeed. Jake Burton and Josh Rogers. Looks like it is on for the lead. Jake Burton has kept his lead there versus Rogers just coming out of the pits. Bo Albert exiting the pits as well. So this is going to be your lead battle for the rest of the race. Both of these guys with topped up tanks. Burton's pit stop seems like it's not quite going up. Oh yeah, so Rogers had a 10th slower stop than Burton did. So that definitely shows that Burton a little more sure about his fuel, or more willing to take a risk.
Burton's got a lot of traffic to work his way through right now, not given the racing line through the downhill left-hander there. But then neither is Rogers through Junsao. Burton is in the fight of his life right now. was Paul Nichols. Winkleman comes into the pits, Bird comes into the pits, Solowski comes into the pits. Let me give you a surprise. Ross Rizzo stays out.
Oh my goodness, what a shock. So Ross Rizzo now will...
Premium unleaded.
Yeah, that's it. So all of these guys jumping into the pits, Bird, Winkleman, Tucker, Solowski as well. Blake Neck, meanwhile, missing his pit box, so that's going to be an issue for the Geodesic Racing driver. Meanwhile, Albert has managed to jump all of the Trick Boys there. Have a look at that. He is in front of the likes of Solowski and Rizzo. And, no, sorry, not Rizzo. That's, Bird. Actually, Bird's lost a lot of time there.
Long stop for Bird. Maybe he hasn't been with Trick long enough to have fully learned all of the fuel strategy and fuel saving gimmicks. I'm sure he'll get there, but Bo Albert's done a good job for himself. He's got one more stop for Rizzo before the field will be cleansed, as we love to say.
Yes, indeed. We right on board, though, with Josh Rogers looking at Jake Burton here. The fight for the lead of this race as the sun gets lower and lower on the horizon. Coming up to 7:09 in the evening in sim time, so it's a very late start for these guys. The lights have come on. Rogers with a very good run up the front straight here. Burton staying in the middle of the road briefly, a little bit defensive, but as they pass Ross Rizzo, who's just come into the pits, looks to me like it's a question of sooner rather than later. Rogers trying to stick one up the inside of Burton here.
Yeah, Rogers has been quick in a straight line all race, and just here as well, gaining in a straight line. Not quite close enough. Might want to have a quick look at where Rizzo...
That's interesting. Rizzo out ahead of Albert, as you were just, I think, alluding to there, David.
Hadn't actually looked myself. I was just thinking that one's going to be close, but Albert's got to run at him up the hill. Rizzo stays to the inside. It's difficult to go around the outside through the double left. Very possible to try and cross it back, though. Not going to happen this time. So Rizzo elevates himself to fourth position.
Ethan Warren out of the race. I'm going to go back and check what happened there. But it is on for the lead. Enjoy this lead battle, guys. This is something that you very rarely get. A titanic battle like this.
Rogers got a really good run out of Junsao this time. I want to call it the final corner. It's technically not the final corner. It's the last braking zone. So Rogers is now a little bit closer than he was last lap. So Burton is defending harder than he was last lap. Waits until just the start of the braking zone to go back across to the racing line, but he locks up the inside tyre, runs a bit deep. This is going to give Rogers a fantastic run out of turn 3 at him. Burton, I'm sure, will hug the left-hand side of the racetrack. Indeed, he does. So now there's an overlap. Rogers is on the outside.
Absolutely, and
breaking on the grass.
There being left. My goodness, this is very desperate defending from Jake Burton that we have seen before. He does like to stay in front, does Jake, in the number 35. So that's something to keep track of. Ross Rizzo and Bo Albert, meanwhile, they are still going at it. But Burton versus Rogers. These guys have raced each other quite a few times in the past.
Rogers goes again. He's tried to overtake down the inside into this corner before, and he throws it down there. Manages to get it stopped and parks it on the apex. Burton cannot get it back through, and I thought he might do that. It was one corner where Burton wasn't going to ferociously defend the inside. Rogers smelled an opportunity, it smelled good, and he took a big old bite at it.
That's it, and he chewed and swallowed as well. He is now in front of Burton. He's going to have the lead of this race, and I think now it's going to be up to Burton to see if he can stay in that draft. That, I think, will be the main thing that keeps him in touch with Rogers here, because Interlagos has a lot of long straights that the draft is very useful at. I just took a look, by the way, at what happened to Ethan Warren. Turns out Adam Briggs turned him at the double apex right, and Warren went into the wall. So that's a shame for him. Up the front though, Burton. Yeah, look at them.
Earlier in this race for a bit of contact, and Rogers goes wide out of turn 4. Burton staying with him for the moment, gets a good run up the hill, but Rogers has been good at planting the car exactly where he needs through this middle sector. Burton, huge light break, huge lunge to the inside, couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah, that was Tom Freer letting them by on the inside there, almost stopped on the track. Burton has not gotten a good exit out of that particular hairpin though. Seems like in that middle section of the circuit, Burton is just throwing his car at the track for all it's worth, desperate to stay in touch with Rogers. Oh no, that is, I think, either hardware or a problem with his tyres is Burton, because I think that's put him almost out of touch with Rogers there.
He's just had a big wiggle late in the corner, and we saw that for Gasol earlier. At some point, you know, it starts sliding, keeps sliding more, and you've got to counter steer into the slide. And there, the Porsche flicks back the other way and go out wide. And I think Burton just shows how hard he's pushing to try and stick with Rogers. Looking back
with the
at
run.
his place though.
Yeah, Albert with the big run here. He's going to go up the inside at turn 1. Rizzo going to try and defend. He's managed to hold on as Ross Rizzo, but now Albert giving him a little bit of a bump in the rear. These guys, they're starting to get real feisty as the race enters its final 6 minutes. Rizzo going defensive. Albert on the outside, coming into turn 4 as Rizzo overshot. Has he gone a bit too deep? He's lost a bit too much momentum. There we go. Albert is through into, I believe that's 5th place. 4th place.
4th, yeah, that was a classic over-under. Make your opponent break too deep on the inside. And you break just right on the outside, get it to the apex and get a great run out. I don't think this will be the end of that. That was just a textbook move by Albert, and Rizzo defending where he needed to, but just didn't quite park it on the apex how he should have, or got in just a little bit hot.
Yes, indeed. Just saw that on the replay there. Fantastic bit of racing, and that's one of the things that I think could be shown to budding racing drivers, to show racing tactics without punting someone off. That's really good to see. So these guys continuing to fight, and Rizzo staying in touch with Albert just slightly, but not, I think, enough. Blake, Nick and Trent Thomas, meanwhile, for 8th and 9th. Blake has had a pretty good run in this one. He's had a couple of issues during the pit phase, overshooting his box, but he's managed to hold on to 8th from a start of 11th, so he's doing very well there at the moment.
Yep, I see his pit lane time as 26.6 seconds compared to Trent Thomas's 25.3 on the lane, so maybe only lost a second or a second and a half with that little blunder in the pit lane. But, you know, you never want to do that, and there comes a time where it becomes very, very valuable, is right in front of them. Is that Scott Zalowski getting past some traffic? Oh yeah, there's some traffic in front of them, but Zalowski and Bird is also very close for another trick teammates battle. There's battles everywhere we look, we don't have enough eyeballs.
Yeah, certainly not. There's only 6 eyeballs in the comms booth. Me, David, you, and our director, Mr. J. Kennedy, but we are trying our best to keep track of everything that's going on out there on the virtual racing surface. A little bit of a lock-up from Thomas in his desperation to try and get past Neck. Seeing a couple of cars go side by side behind them as well. Aaron Farmer and TJ Brown, I believe. No, Aaron Farmer there in the pits. So we're going to go to a replay. Something happened to these guys. We're not quite sure what. Aaron Farmer up the middle there as they go 3 wide, and was this contact? Yes, it was. Oh, Adam Briggs and JC Richards in succession getting together with Aaron Farmer. That is a real shame for him. Meanwhile, Rizzo and Albert, it is back on, and now the tables have turned. It is Rizzo on the outside and Albert on the inside. Rizzo's going to try and hold it around the outside of turn 4. Possible to do. He's going to have a bit of a run here up the hill. Albert's going to have to give him room here. Oh, a little bit of a slide from Albert. Just noticing Rizzo not with enough momentum on the inside. Falls into a bit of a gap. Little bit of contact between these guys. Going side by side. I'm getting F3 flashbacks, David.
Yeah, I was about to start calling them Cam Dance and Aaron Lee, but it's not who it is, and that's not what the car is. Sorted itself out a little bit quicker in this machine, and Bo Albert grabs 4th place again. But this is not over. They're going to have 2 more laps when they cross the start-finish line this time. Behind them, Solowski and Bird changed positions, but it wasn't as exciting as Albert and Rizzo.
Yes, indeed. So, more shifting of positions. The race is about to enter its final 1 minute and 40 seconds. So, there should only be 2 laps remaining now for our leaders. Bird and Solowski making their way through lap traffic there. And back on here between Albert and Rizzo. It's continuing the 2x2 battle packs. Neck and Thomas. Seems like Neck has the measure of Trent at the moment, and it seems like Rogers up the front has the measure of Burton. They're going to get white flag this time around. Burton, you can see, chucking his car into the corners, trying to extract every bit of grip he possibly can out of that Porsche 911 RSR, but remains to be seen what will happen. Albert and Rizzo continuing to fight here. They know what's at stake. It's a 4th place in this series, and Albert, after his appearance at Sebring last week, he's caught the bug and wants to make another race. It's going to be a good run for him if he can pull this off. But Rizzo has got the championship to think about.
He's got to get a great run out of the final corner this time, and a little bit wide goes Albert. Struggles to get the power down. So Rizzo's going to close up before the first corner. He's got the closing momentum. Albert stays to the left. So Rizzo's going to have to go around the outside if that's what he wants to do. Basically side by side the whole length of the front straight. Why not? Rizzo tries to break deep. What can he do about it? No. Cede it to Albert just for the moment. Try and get a better run off turn 3. Because we've seen these guys battle into turn 4 just about every lap for the last 15 minutes.
Yes, indeed. That's amazing to see. And Albert going to the inside there. You can see the light beams of Rizzo making shadows. Will they be able to swap positions here? No. I think Albert might just have this unless Rizzo decides to throw one up the inside. While this is going on, our leaders are coming up to the last few turns of this race. And Josh Rogers, I mean, it's been a very Josh Rogers drive from Josh Rogers up the front. Almost untroubled. Had his issues, but he has well and truly had the measure of everyone else out there, and he's going to take that Coanda Ferrari home in first place. Jake Burton as well. A really good run there for second. That's your top 2 there, crossing the line. Rogers wins and Burton second.
Burton didn't make it too easy for Josh Rogers. Josh Rogers maybe just had the straight line speed in that Ferrari. Peasnick, bit of a quiet one to grab 3rd place, so that's good for his championship. 4th, Bo Albert, what does he do? He flashes the headlights across the line. Does manage to hold off from Ross Rizzo. Behind them, Solowski and Bird. Solowski's got it.
Yes, indeed. So it's been a varied race for quite a few people. Blake Neck taking 8th there from Trent Thomas, and finally back in the field. We've got a couple of battles. Benjamin Johnson with more problems there in the CMR number 727. And Mark Rayner pulling it to a stop. A few battles back in the rear of the field, or in the midfield rather, considering how big the field is for this one. 21st and 22nd, Darren Huxham and Daniel Cheney. These guys going at it on the last lap. It looks like Huxham is going to be able to get that one done.
Yeah, Cheney closed up a whole bunch that lap. Was not enough, unfortunately. A good, respectable result for both of them, though, improving on their grid position. And just about everyone. Last cars is up 30th on down. Was the last cars remaining on the lead lap. Looking at Reese Keane, TJ Brown, and they cross the finish line now. What was a race that nearly ran out of breath. Always something going on.
Yeah, absolutely right. What a race, though. Once again, I have to say that I'm pleasantly surprised by this one, because usually when we've gone to Interlagos, we've seen lots of carnage and a lot of caution periods. But here, obviously, we did have quite a few incidents, but none were big enough to cause a safety car, and there were no big pile-ups from what we could see. So good to see. Unofficial results here. Josh Rogers taking the win from Jake Burton and John Peasnick completing the podium. Good return for him after the heartbreaker Motegi. Bo Albert and Ross Rizzo completing at the top 5 there with Solovsky and Bird in 6th and 7th. Blake Neck is going to beat Trent Thomas there for 8th place. And rounding out the top 10, we have got Anthony Winkleman.
In 11th place is Zach Hanlon. 12th goes to Hayden Dodman. 13th, Reese Gasul had a bit of a tough race. 14th, Mark Rayner. 15th, Dominic Ferraris. 16th, Corey Ott. 17th, last of the tricks, Martin Silvassi. 18th is Mitchell McLeod. Good run from him because we didn't talk about him. Whenever we do, he has troubles, but good on him. 19th is Richard Hunter, and 20th, Brock Cadday.
Darren Huxham from 31st to 21st, a good run for him. Daniel Cheney and Justin Strickland behind him. Dylan Shepard and Cameron Stubber as well. Jake Maloney, 26th. Adam Briggs, 27th. Benjamin Johnson, JC Richards and Rob Harris rounding out the top 30 there. Harris from 41st.
Yeah, getting towards some retirements in the last cars on the lead lap. 31st, TJ Brown. 32nd, Reese Keane. 33rd, Pat Gallo. 34th, Tom Freer. 36th, Paul Wood. 36th, Paul Nichols. 37th, Matt Hopperts. 38th, Gary Cousins. 39th, David Farrelly. And 40th, Stephen Bartholomew.
We're coming well and truly into the lap downs and retirements here. Chris Polly, Alex Court, Ryan Jarek and Ty Ingleton, both, I believe, managing to see the finish. But Aaron Farmer, Ethan Warren, Hewitt, Tucker, Daly, Gallon, that's a big one, out very early on in the race. That's going to be a shame for his title fight. And Nino Natali rounding out your 51-car grid here. As the sun sets at Interlagos, we're going to have our driver interviews with the top 3. We have the winner in here now, Josh Rogers. Welcome, Josh. One of your first races on SimSpeed for Coanda Sim Sports, and you come away from it with a win.
Hey guys, how you going? Obviously, a little bit stressed after that start. When I came up to the green, I thought I'd get the call before the green flag came out, but I got swamped a little bit. But yeah, look, after that slow down, I think I just had to kind of get into that rhythm, get my head down, and try and push forward from there and see where I could end up. I figured I'd be able to be somewhere near the point end going off qualifying, but I knew it was going to be tight with Jake. I think once I cleared Peasnick, he started to kind of put the hammer down a little bit more, and he was saving his tyres before that. So, but yeah, all in all, good fun race. Always fun racing this series. I'll be back next week for sure.
A little birdie told me you were fuel saving, Josh.
I was a little bit right at the end. I think I had enough. I was just trying to be on that slight safe side. I kind of took marginal, so I think I only had 300-400 mil at the line. So just had to save just a couple. Wanted to cut it fine. Needed to come out as close to Burton as I could.
Well, you certainly managed to get that done, and I did hear you say that you'd be here next week. Is this going to turn into a full rest of the season campaign from you?
Possibly, yeah. I think, for me, at this point in the year, it's important to really start getting into that rhythm for practicing for World Championship and just getting used to these cars again and trying to, work the setups out. Hence why I'm driving the Ferrari. Most of the time I'm driving the Ford doing the virtual racing school data packs. But yeah, this time figured mix it up, try a different car.
Alrighty. Well, coming away from it with the top step, Josh, you're in prime position to thank whoever you would like to thank.
Yeah, no worries. Just obviously, huge thanks to the new team at Coanda Sim Sport. Also, our partners, virtual race, end-to-end design, SimQuip, RaceBot, and Joel with timing, and obviously you guys for the broadcast as well. Cheers for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. Your winner there, Josh Rogers for Coanda SimSport. Next up, we're going to bring in the second place finisher, Jake Burton. Now a privateer, but Jake, you haven't lost much of your pace.
Not in this thing. Still running with Positive Sim Racing, those guys in this car for the GTE Pro Series. So just jumped in tonight to have a little bit of practice for that race this weekend, and obviously was well prepped. And yeah, whenever you're going door to door with a Coanda driver, it's pretty cool.
I can definitely imagine, Jake. Well, Josh did say that he was interested in doing more rounds of this series. Obviously, you've got more fish to fry with your runs with Positive. So are we going to see more appearances from you here?
I'll probably, to be honest, I actually didn't really know this series was on. I normally run the Rallycross on these nights, as you know. But I'll definitely do the rounds that align with the GTE Pro Series. So I'll be back in 2 weeks. Probably won't be around next week, given we've got Scops and Porsche going on. But yeah, definitely was impressed tonight. And Rogers actually told me yesterday he was going to have a race, which was what sort of attracted me to it, because you know, at the end of the day, if you want to be the best, you got to compare to the best. So that's why I had to go, and I was quite impressed.
Awesome stuff. Well, apart from all of that, Jake, a good result from you. Who would you like to thank?
Just a big thanks to all the Positive Sim Racing guys. Obviously, you know, it's insane some of the laps these guys do in my team to put together a great set for these cars in particular. So I definitely had a good set tonight. So big thanks to those guys, and hopefully we can have a similar result.
Jake Burton there competing for Positive Sim Racing in the Porsche GTE. Thank you very much for joining us, Jake. We move on to our final podium place getter, John Peasnick. John, it was not the race for you at Motegi. It was a bit better for you at Sebring, but on the podium here, certainly a result to relish.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, it hasn't been a good run of late. Motegi was one that got away due to some internet dramas, but very happy to bounce back today and get a podium against those guys. I tried my hardest to stay with them. I made a couple of little lockups with Krulby, but I still was just a tad off with staying there. So, but overall, stoked, mate.
Yeah, you definitely must be. Well, finishing in front of your main championship rivals, and of course, Luis Paulo Gallon having his big issues there, retiring from the race. Well, it seems like things are better for you in terms of the championship this round, but both Burton and Rogers have expressed interest in doing future rounds. What kind of pressure does that put on you?
Not so much pressure. It's a tad annoying, but but no, it's all good. It's I know what I have to do in regards to staying in front of certain people. So if I just be consistent, hopefully we can get a good result at the end, and it doesn't come down to, you know, a last race thing. But you never know; it probably will happen. But not so much pressure. I'll keep trying to work on the car if I get time, and just trying to make it a little bit better, and just keep it there.
Well, you've definitely done a good job here at Interlagos with a podium, John. So who would you like to thank before we let you go?
I'll just thank my mate Reese for coming back on board and jumping in. It wasn't his night, but hopefully he comes back soon.
John Peasnick there for Element Motorsports. Thank you very much for joining us, John, and thank you everyone for watching. That brings to an end proceedings for tonight. David, remarkably impressive runs from quite a few people tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I really feel like this series has gone from strength to strength, added Alpine Stars as title sponsor, and the caliber of the racing, the speed of the drivers that we've got, and we're getting some names that are known not just as good drivers inside the AusNZ community, but quite a few that are going to be making some big waves globally as well. And all of that's massive credit to this series and the great racing we've been seeing in it.
Yep, certainly. Well, we look forward, David, to Road America next week. We saw some great racing in Formula 3s last week at Road America, but we go to America's Monza for GTE. It's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yep, really quick track, lots of long straights, and we saw, the slipstream was nice here up the hill towards turn 1. Well, there's effectively 3 or 4 of that at Road America. Great car for GT racing, and if it's half as good as this, it'll be great, but it will be just as good.
Yeah, certainly will. Looking forward to it, and you should be looking forward to it as well. We're going to be live again on the iRacing Esports Network, same time next week, bringing you Road America, the next round of the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing Sprint Series Australasia. Make sure to subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network and receive alerts for new live streams that come up. We've got all of iRacing's best broadcasters here bringing you quality content. And make sure to subscribe to us over at SimSpeed TV. The fun never stops in our little Aussie corner of the globe. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.